Hey, welcome back to part 2 of our study. We're looking at the beginning, the middle, and the end, and we're looking at Philippians 1:6. Just that verse. Depending on your translation, that might come in the middle of a sentence. Some other translations have at the beginning. It's a sentence all to itself. I'm using the ESV, so that's a sentence all unto itself. But we're going to look at biblical change this week. That's what our task is, and that's what this verse is about, change. He who started something is going to complete it. That has to do with changing. And so let's take a look at the text here. Now, Paul says at the very beginning, I am sure of this, or I'm confident of this. Paul uses the same word in a couple of different places. If you read a few verses down in Philippians 1:24 through 25, Paul says in connection to this continuing ministry that to remain in the flesh is more necessary on your account. Convinced of this, I know that I will remain and continue with you all. So he's convinced of that he was going to stay with them, that God wasn't taking him out of the world. God was keeping him here so that he could help them, and that was necessary for them that he remained alive and with them. So that's one of the things he was convinced of. Now, in the letter to Philemon, we read that Paul was confident of Philemon's obedience. Same word. And that he would do even more than what Paul asked him to do. In writing to the Corinthians, he said, I wrote as I did so that when I came, I might not suffer pain from those who should have made me rejoice. For I felt sure of all of you that my joy would be the joy of you all. Another thing that he was confident of, that he was sure of, is the same word that he used there as well. So he's confident of this, sure of these things, that would be the case. Now, what's the meaning of that? Well, the root word of this word is to bind, which is the same root that the word faith comes from. You're binding yourself to a certain thing. These are very close related ideas. Paul is saying in our passage that he is confident or persuaded in what follows. What does this confident or fully persuaded condition come from? Well, we only need to look at the context. In the sentence before, Paul says that he thanks God in his prayers. In the following verse, he talks about how the Philippians are partakers in the grace that comes from Paul's defense and confirmation of the gospel. We have some very strong clues here that Paul's confidence comes from God and the power of the gospel. There's nothing more sure than these, right? There's nothing more than the gospel and God are constants. They do not change. So that's what Paul is so confident about. That's where he's getting his confidence. He's confident in them or in other people and other things because of who God is. Not so much in the person or place or thing, but because of the nature of who God is. That God wants this will continue on. If God doesn't want that, then it'll change. But God's as something that's constant, and he's saying this is what you need to do, then that's going to stay the same. So you can be confident in that things won't be flipped on you. So that's where Paul's coming from when he says what he's about to say in the next part of the verse, that he's confident, he's sure of this about them. There's a reason, because God. That's the reason. So that's the foundation that we need to remember as we go into the rest of this text. So keep that in mind as we come back tomorrow, and we'll take a look at the next part.